Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the business of soccer.
The appetite for soccer in this country is here to stay.
The Global World Cup of 26 will bring just that, the globe, to the United States.
Every 4 years, there's this moment where the world wakes up to the incredible athletes that we have on the U.S. women's national team.
There are more soccer games available to watch on television in the U.S. than any other country in the world.
Soccer, or as I would call it, living in the UK, football, is the biggest sport in the world.
There's a gap in the market around women's soccer, and we're here to fill that gap.
Bloomberg Business of Soccer from Bloomberg Radio.
This is a special edition of the Bloomberg Business of Sports podcast, The Business of Soccer. I'm Vanessa Perdomo, and I'm diving in behind the scenes of the beautiful game as we get ready for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. I am so excited for today's episode where we will be focusing all on the business of goalkeepers. As some of you may know, I was a Division I college goalkeeper, so this topic is near and dear to my heart. You might hear me get a little nerdy, but stick with me because we have some really great guests. Later, we will talk to MLS All-star Maarten Paes, but first, we are starting with legendary former U.S. women's national team goalkeeper Briana Scurry. She is one of the reasons I became a goalkeeper, and we started our conversation with talking about the legendary 1999 Women's World Cup and how it changed women's soccer and women's sports, as well as getting into why goalkeepers are often overlooked by marketers. Here's my conversation with legend, former U.S. women's national team goalkeeper and 99er Briana Scurry. So it is my absolute pleasure and dream, really, to speak with you today, Briana, U.S. women's national team goalkeeper, 99er Briana Scurry. Guys, I'm fangirling over here, if you can't tell. I was a former goalkeeper, so this is really a dream for me. Briana, thanks so much for joining the Business of Soccer.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thanks for thinking of me. So I appreciate that. Goalkeepers unite.
Exactly. So that's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about. So I think one of the things that is really interesting when we're talking about, we're obviously soccer's coming up a lot this year. That's why we have this podcast. We're around the corner from the World Cup. But I think in the conversation of soccer, in the conversation of stars, goalkeepers get lost in this conversation. Would you agree with that?
I do agree. It's a very interesting thing because America and I think the world likes goal scorers and not too fond of those of us who try to stop goals from being scored. So, it's so interesting because it's exciting. It's more exciting when a goal is scored, although we obviously think it's better when a goal is stopped.
I love a good save.
It's always been a thing. I know, right?
I love a good save. Athleticism is, everyone should really pay attention to that. It's the best. Yeah.
I know. No, lack of appreciation, I guess. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to start with your journey in your career. And obviously we have to start with the 99 World Cup, which, is the greatest performance from a team and greatest moment in American sports, but I'm not biased at all. Don't worry about that.
I don't detect any bias.
Yeah. So I want to start with, kind of the overall arching aspect of the tournament. It's 1999. It's a World Cup in the U.S., but it's women's soccer, so it's kind of new. What was your take, throughout how it grew, the fever grew from group stages to the final?
Well, the fact that we were even having a women's standalone event such as the World Cup was interesting and had never really been done on the scale that we were doing it. Originally, I don't know if you know this, but originally the tournament was supposed to be played regionally in small high school stadiums, 2,000 to 5,000 people. But the committee decided to try to blow the doors off the thing and put it in football stadiums. And that was like 3 years before. Mm-hmm. So we literally went door to door for 2 years selling our game and said, please come to our tournament. We're going to have it right here in the U.S. in your backyard. And you don't want to miss it and da-da-da. And so we were educating and letting people know. So then when we finally got to play our first game, out of Giant Stadium in front of 76,000 people, it was truly a dream come true. It was way beyond any expectation. Because there's a certain level of desire of a dream that you want to create. And then when you're actually living in it, it's very different. And so we were very emotional that game. And of course, now that it was happening, we had to get to business. We had to get to work. So we had a fantastic game that day. and beat the team Denmark 3-0.
Yeah. And obviously, I know that one of your dreams when you were younger was to be an Olympian, and you played in the Olympics, right? A couple of years before that. And that was also in the U.S. in 1996, which is kind of the first Olympics where we see women's sports become a big thing, right? You guys win the gold medal. The U.S. women's basketball team wins the gold medal, and that spurs the WNBA. And then you go into the moment of the World Cup. Did that have any momentum, do you think? Or was the World Cup still kind of this new concept? Everybody knew what the Olympics was, but not everyone maybe knew what the Women's World Cup was.
I think the 96 Olympic Games had a lot of momentum in it. One of the things that happened, I don't know if you recall, but they didn't show our game live at all on NBC during that 96 Olympics. They were showing all these other different sports, but they didn't show our game live, even though we had, 76,000 people in the stands and were favored to win. And so what you saw, if you weren't at the stadium, you saw snippets. Mm-hmm. So by the time 99 rolled around, they decided, hey, maybe we should show the whole game once in a while. People might want to watch it. So they did. And so that was one thing that changed. But I also feel like that Olympic Games was the year of the woman. It truly was. And a lot of our collective sports teams in the United States won gold. And I think that really had a shift in how women's sports was perceived, especially team sports. And so when we were trying to do this standalone World Cup tournament, a lot of people were skeptical because, they were like, oh, well, yeah, the Olympics, of course. Who doesn't want to see the Olympics? And who wouldn't want to go to a game, a gold medal game? And they were saying, well, this is very different. But we believed differently from them, and we thought we could pull it off. So I feel like the two combined tournaments really had an impact on each other. Yeah. And so for me, we had great momentum going into the 99 World Cup because of the 96 Olympics. Right.
And so you win in the ultimate fashion of penalty kick shootout, which it's my favorite way to win. I think it's just like the most incredible feeling. I don't think there's anything that beats it. But did you expect what the fervor that you guys got after winning 99?
Mm-hmm. I feel like we kind of thought there would be some real fire in women's game, especially in women's soccer after we won. But I don't think we truly understood the magnitude. At least I didn't. It went from relative obscurity, leading into the World Cup start to completely everybody knowing who I was right after we won. A lot of fame and a lot of, notoriety and truly relief that we had won actually was very, very overwhelming. And so that fire was lit. And of course, like you said earlier, the 96 Olympics led to the WNBA. The 99 World Cup led to the WUSA, which was our first women's league here in the United States. And so there was a lot of fire. Also, I will say that the fact that we won the way we did, really did play a factor. My save was one, but also Brandy taking off her shirt after her goal showed that women could be strong and beautiful at the same time. And so I think that changed a lot of perspectives about women's athletics and especially women's soccer in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. Watching the PKs, I think I probably watch it maybe once a year. It gives me chills to this day. And I remember watching it and the way you acted after, making that save. It's the pumping of the fist, like up and down. You're so pumped. And I feel like as a goalkeeper, you can stay pretty poised throughout a game when you make a save, but there's something about like saving a PK, right? That is just the greatest feeling ever. Would you agree? Is that like your favorite part of a game is saving a PK, or like the favorite moment, like adrenaline moment, do you think?
I really do. It's an explosion of emotion. So for me, saving PKs, we had a mandate essentially. I had to save one, right, and that was the goal. And if I could save two, that would be spectacular. But one was the requirement, and so I really focused on that thing. And truth be told, PKs are hard. I mean, it is apparently the number 7 hardest thing to do is to save a penalty kick. So in sports. And so I was happy about that. But obviously I really had, all eyes on you, right? 90,000 people holding their collective breath, waiting for you to hopefully spring forward and make a save. And I was able to do that. And I felt like I had to do my part, and I knew that number 3 kicker was the one. When I walked into that goal, I knew that was the one I was going to save.
Yeah?
And sure enough, I did.
Was it just like the feeling you got stepping up to the line, or why did you know that was the one?
So traditionally, my MO was to turn my back to my teammates kicking because I had nothing to do with that. That wasn't within my power of control. And so I didn't want to put anything into my mind that I couldn't control. But my MO had been to not look at the kickers as they were approaching the spot. But for some reason, that number 3 kicker, something in my mind said, look. And so I looked at her, and I just knew she was the one I was going to save. And she didn't really look like she wanted to kick. She didn't seem like she was very confident. And I just really felt that this was the one. And sure enough, it was.
I have to get a little nerdy about goalkeeping for a second and just like ask you about the style that you had when you were, on the line. You would take multiple steps. I mean, you wait for the whistle, wait for the contact, but then take multiple steps off the line. I mean, I feel like usually people have you can take like one step and like that's pretty much it. I'm curious how you developed that style, and like, would you teach it to goalkeepers today?
Well, today's a little bit different, obviously, right? So back then, the goalkeeper on the line rule was very gray. A lot of referees didn't call it. They didn't really say anything about it. It was very, very gray line. And so because of that, we trained it in practice. And so we were trying to gain as big of an advantage as we could. And if the referee was going to call it back, if I saved it, I was completely aware and okay with that. But as it turned out, they didn't. And so interesting thing too, if you go back and look, the Chinese keeper was also stepping off the line, but she just, unfortunately for her, didn't get lucky enough to get one. So, but now you can step off the line as long as you keep that one toe on the line. And I honestly believe that my penalty kick save changed the course of the rules for goalkeepers on PK saves. It's been changed over a few times over the 30 years that it's been. But I mean, we trained it like that. We trained it like that.
That's such another iconic thing. The way I saved it, they had to change it because of what I did. I love it. Okay, so not to get that was me getting a little in the weeds. Sorry, guys. I had to ask about it, but I want to go back to the point that you were making about the way you guys won and how that propelled everything a little bit more. And you mentioned Brandy taking her shirt off, which is one of the most iconic photos, ever cover Sports Illustrated. I think it was on the Wheaties box or something like that as well. But the goalkeeper, I mean, you made this save. That was the reason why you can go and win, right? I mean, there's no winning without them missing a shot. But it doesn't happen for you the same way afterwards. I mean, you mentioned people know your name afterwards. You're famous afterwards. But the marketability and the dollars aren't the same. Can you talk a little bit about that and why you think it was such?
Yeah, so for the longest time, I wondered about it. I thought to myself, well, at first I was like, well, is it because I'm a goalkeeper versus a forward? Maybe the market isn't ready for goalkeepers to be heroes. And then I thought, well, is it because of the color of my skin? Is it because I'm Black? Or is it because of my sexual orientation, because I'm gay? And all these different things I was thinking about. And as it turned out in my like looking back on it, it unfortunately, I think, was because of being out and also because of being Black. And so because as the years went on, other goalkeepers were given or were awarded, if you will, notoriety and appreciation, not only in their countries, but by the media. And I think the truth of the matter is, in my opinion, is the media wasn't ready for me. I was way before my time. Yes. And
we mentioned an openly gay Black woman in the 90s. This was not
in the
today.
90s. I was the only one.
Right.
Nobody else was doing any of the sort. So I was the only one. And I think the social impact, the societal impact wasn't quite ready for me yet. But now that has really changed the last few years. So I'm actually more grateful because it's actually now bigger, in my opinion, for me now than it would have been back then.
How do you mean? Bigger for you now?
Well, I think, so I think when people look back on the moment, they have an appreciation for what has evolved from there. And now in society, it's not taboo to be out, and it's not taboo to be a player of color either. And also the fact that I did what I did and I became, essentially an iconic person over time. Now media is appreciating me more. I have a lot more sponsorships and partnerships and companies that are wanting to align with me. And I think also because I've had a lot of integrity about appreciating my role and where we've come from, and all my teammates as well. We've continued to make an impact on this game, even though we don't play anymore. And I feel now it's truly being appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear about that, because obviously, for people who don't know your story, they can go buy your book, and you have a documentary out as well. And it's a really incredible story. But there was a point where the iconicism or so was lost for the 99 team in general and your story in general. And there was really hard years. When did you start seeing that come back around?
So the hard years, traditionally speaking, were the dark years, which is the time when the eye shifts from the women's game to the men's game. And so you tend to see some difficulty financially, an ebb, if you will, in time. And for me, over the course of several years after the Women's World Cup, unfortunately, the WUSA and the WPS both ended up folding literally before 3 seasons were played. And so there was a real question mark about whether or not this country could sustain a women's soccer league, a professional league. And so that was really difficult for a lot of players to deal with. It's hard to keep your skill set up and sharp if there's no league to play in. And so we all really struggled. But then finally, the NWSL came along and we were able to maintain that. And now, you're seeing a lot of great players come out of that league, not only from the United States side, but also from around the world, different players coming to play in it. And so I feel like now you are really seeing an evolution and an explosion of women's soccer in this country, essentially because we continue to win on the national team side and maintaining that excitement with winning and producing, and then able to parlay that into a new league, which now stands on its own.
Right, absolutely. Even though we have to get back to winning because 2023 wasn't our year, but 2027, the good thing about that is actually I love to see the international game growing as well, so that there is a lot more competition that makes the win that more satisfying. But getting back to goalkeepers a little bit, and you mentioned it that maybe at the time there was obviously all these other factors that led you to not be the most marketable player. But I also think it's interesting when we're looking at goalkeepers, it's a cyclical thing. I mean, there's only been really 3 goalkeepers of the U.S. women's national team in the last 30 years. I mean, 30 years. That's really crazy. But I think that there's something there, too, that, yes, the other players and other goalkeepers in general and internationally have been able to find some footing. But there also has to be this other element to it, like this first, right? You were this iconic first player, the 99ers and all of that. Hope Solo was very notorious for many things, positive and negative, made a lot of headlines. But I would say that a lot of my friends who are casual fans don't really know who Alyssa Nair necessarily is by name. So I think there has to be this other thing that propels people beyond for people to notice goalkeepers. Do you think that's on the media side? Do you think it's a personality thing? Like, what would you say that is?
Well, yeah, that's a really fascinating point to make. first of all, let me say that when it comes to winning, with the women's side, the teams that are playing the World Cup and the Olympics tend to be the same people. On the men's side, it's different. So when you talk about cycles, World Cup is first and the Olympics are right after. Every single cycle, Team USA has won either the Olympic gold or the World Cup championship. And so I think in those few cycles where we were winning Olympic gold instead of World Cup gold, it's the same team. And so you have that notoriety. I feel like what happened with Alyssa is I think that the light shifted from goalkeepers being able to essentially take the game by the scruff of the neck and get the team to the final, and then we figure out how to win it, to, the field players. You had Megan Rapinoe, you had Abby Wambach, you've had a lot of different players. Now you had, Kristen Press, Tobin Heath, Lindsay Horan, all these great names. And the goalkeeper, Alyssa, didn't have to do as much, I feel like, as Hope and I had to do. And so her name wasn't really in the media that much. But the truth is, in my opinion, she proved herself in 2019 because there was no way that team would have won that World Cup if it weren't for Alyssa. And but she was greatly overshadowed by Alex Morgan, by Megan Rapinoe, and just by all the different things that were going on. And the first time us winning World Cup in a long time. So there was a lot going on there, and that got a lot more attention than Alyssa did, unfortunately. But she is a brilliant goalkeeper. I've met her several times, watched her play, and she's got all the goods. And we've been very blessed with great goalkeeping here for the women's side for decades.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, she's a PK saving machine, listener.
Yes, I know. Exactly. Yeah. You can bank it, right?
Yeah,
you can take it to the bank that she's going to save at least one, if not two.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's interesting, in your like second half career, you work with brands. You said you have more partnerships now. You've been part of a team and things like that. Have you had conversations with brands about the power of goalkeepers and telling their story? And like we said, I mean, if I was a brand and I was going to invest in a player, I would invest in a player who's going to be in that seat for 10 years, you know what I'm saying? So have you had those conversations with brands?
I have had those conversations, not only with goalkeepers in general. I mean, I explained to them how goalkeeping is the foundation of a team. And at one point in time, if you go back in time and look at every single team that's won a world championship or Olympic championship, at one point in time in that run, the goalkeeper had the team on their shoulders. And so if you don't have strong defensive goalkeeping, then you're not going to win. That's just how it works. And so who better to have represent you if you're a company that wants to, talk about strength or teamwork or camaraderie or leadership. Goalkeepers are all those things wrapped into one. And in my case, I feel like not only am I a goalkeeper, but I was also a trailblazer. And so I understand how to literally blaze trails and make something there that was not there before. And so for me, I think the important thing too with goalkeepers is we tend to be rather cerebral in our ability to, decide who goes where and shift our teammates in positions to be strong as a team. I mean, I feel like one of my greatest traits was my ability to communicate to my backs and put them in the right position for them to be successful. And so all these steps of success, these attributes of success are all the same, whether you're on the pitch or in the boardroom.
That was my conversation with Hall of Fame goalkeeper Briana Scurry. This is a special edition of the Bloomberg Business of Sports podcast, The Business of Soccer. Up next, we'll hear from FC Dallas goalkeeper Maarten Paes. I'm Vanessa Perdomo. This is Bloomberg. You're listening to a special edition of the Bloomberg Business of Sports podcast, The Business of Soccer. I'm Vanessa Perdomo. My next guest is MLS All-star goalkeeper Maarten Paes. He joined us to discuss how he's used his position to build a business portfolio which includes his own glove line, ownership into professional padel, and other emerging sports. We also discussed the growth of the MLS and how the league is positioned to skyrocket after the World Cup. Let's listen to my conversation with FC Dallas goalkeeper Maarten Paes. First and foremost, I want to get from you, when did you become a goalkeeper? At what point when you were playing the sport? Because I feel like at every point it's different for everyone.
Yeah, it's very different for me than I think the usual. I was a striker until I was 15, and I was a futsal goalkeeper, indoor football goalkeeper before that. And then I was a good striker, but when offside came into the game around the age of 11, I found out that I was a bit lazy, to be honest, and I didn't want to run that much. Yeah. And I lost the fun for being striker around that age, to be honest. But I was in the highest team, so I wanted to keep my spot there. And then at 15, I became sort of a very lazy striker. Didn't want to go to practices anymore. Wasn't particularly obsessed. And then my coach came to me and he said, Luke, every time we practice and you're put into goal, I see you really enjoying it. And I see you not enjoying being a striker. And then I took a gamble. I took a chance, let's do it. Let's put the gloves on and let's try it a year. There was an open spot at the highest team of my amateur club. And then I developed so quickly from that. And then, within 2 years, I was playing for my national team for age group older. So that was very surrealistic a little bit. And but that's the way how it started.
That's really interesting. Do you know, it's interesting because I feel like I said, everyone has their own sort of place with it. But I do think when I talk to a lot of people at the highest level, goalkeepers at the highest level, it's almost, I kind of found it later, but the athleticism really helped you, So it helped. So you would say that it helped you love the game of soccer again, finding the position?
Yeah, for sure. I was definitely not enjoying it anymore. And then since I put the gloves on, I was asking for practices. I went to train with the under 70s, under 19s, and the first team right away. I practiced 4 times a day almost. My body didn't like it that much because the field was artificial turf, and I got very much hip problems and shoulder problems. But once I got settled in and I got used to it, I started to improve very fast. So definitely. Felt like I found my passion, find my obsession, and then I really was very keen on learning the little details to become better and better.
What was it about the position for you that you fell in love with?
I think I very have a big memory of the first time I found the love for goalkeeping, and it was when I was still very young. There was the Euros, the European Championships, and Holland played at that time Sweden and it went to PKs, and Edwin van der Sar stopped the big PK, and it was kind of my first big tournament that I watched as a kid, and he was the hero, and I was like, oh, I want to be like that guy, and I want to fly and make these beautiful saves. And then I remember every time I went into a pool, I went underneath the water and tried to simulate the saves that he made. And then, what I said, I became futsal goalkeeper and outside field player. And then once I could make that more and more into my lifestyle around the age of 15, I was gone. And then, there was no one stopping me.
I love that story. Because also I fell in love with goalkeeping as well, watching the U.S. Women's National Team 1999, penalty kick shootout. There's something about penalty kick shootouts that I don't know if other people enjoy it maybe as much as goalkeepers do, but I love watching them. I love watching keepers make the saves. We're not supposed to, right? But when you do, it's amazing.
No, I think it's the only moment in games where the pressure is on the kicker and not on a goalkeeper, and we have everything to win. So I always love penalty shootouts, especially when I'm playing them myself.
Right. Yeah. Same. So I have a lot of colleagues also who their daughters are goalkeepers right now. They're a little bit younger and they're not loving it. It's rotation kind of a thing. And they're like, oh, I don't love it. So when you talk to, do you work with younger goalkeepers? Do you try and, work with people, younger kids to really get them passionate about being a goalkeeper?
For sure. I think one of the most important things nowadays is that you try every position and see what you really like. I think like if you're young, playing outfield is very important, especially nowadays with how the position progressed with having to play with your feet. We're almost an extra central defender too in building out from the back. So it's very important. Even doing other sports than soccer can really help you, I think, to become a better goalkeeper. And just really go out there and try to enjoy. Try to not put as much pressure on yourself as possible. But yeah, make sure you enjoy and then see what position you enjoy the most. And if that's goalkeeping, then and you have a big dream, then don't be afraid to take all the necessary steps to become professional. And don't be afraid to ask for people like me. We're always open to give advice. And but I think one of the biggest things is don't put too much pressure on yourself, and especially nowadays with social media and everything. We're getting judged very easily. Mm-hmm. So stick to your own path. Don't get distracted and keep going.
It's definitely interesting. It's a hard thing, obviously, to not put that pressure on yourself, like you said, in this age of social media. But I remember when I fell in love with Goalkeeper, it was because I noticed that the only people who got their names in the paper were the people who scored and the ones who saved the goals, and I was like, I kind of like that. I like having my name in the paper like that, So I think that there's still that element to it, right? That's, you don't want to put the pressure on yourself, but there's so much pressure on being a goalkeeper, and you're the hero or the scapegoat, in this world. And it's really hard to navigate that sometimes, especially if you're younger. But how do you navigate that, in your career?
I think there's more and more appreciation nowadays for goalkeepers. There used to be not so much appreciation, but yeah, I think now with how the game progressed, we're a very big part of the game now, and it's not the least athletic guy going goal because that's how it used to be, right? But I think now there's becoming more appreciation, but there's still this stigma of like, hey, you're a goalkeeper, so we're almost like a different sport, right, and a different people, because we also practice for half of the time different from the big group, and then we come together for like finishing or small-sided games or whatever. But I think, just look, all single details matter. We have to be nearly perfect, and you're not gonna be perfect all the time as a goalkeeper. And I'm not seeking highlights, maybe, or the headlines as a striker is. For me, if nobody talks about me, probably I did a really good job. And also, for me, if I put my defenders in a position to defend the goal so good that I don't need to come into action, I think that's one of the keys, right? Communication, being a leader from the back, we can see the whole field. So I think that's one of our major tasks. And I think if you let the game come to you and you didn't done all the necessary stuff, then you will be there and you also get headlines. But I think if you're looking for headlines, that's where mistakes going to come. So I think, just try to avoid seeking for saves or looking for saves, because the game's going to come to you anyways. And when you come and look for it, that's where most of the mistakes are going to come.
Yeah, I love what you said there, too, about what you can do when you're not even in the play, right? It's about communication. It's about leadership. It's about all of those things. And I want to get into that a little bit more, and especially when we're talking about the business side of it. When we're talking about the business side of being a goalkeeper, and then I want to talk about your investments and how that mindset really goes into, your business mindset. But let's talk a little bit about the business of being a goalkeeper. You had mentioned there that you think, that it's gotten better maybe with, over time, people have more appreciation for it, but it still feels like maybe there isn't as much marketability opportunity, or the leagues haven't done as much, to really recognize the stars of a goalkeeper. I'm interested to hear your take on that, especially as an MLS All-star, how you feel about the way that goalkeepers are giving marketability opportunities and things like that in today's game.
Yeah, it's funny because one of the things that when I became professional was at the beginning, all the big like Adidas and Nike, they will give everyone big sponsorships, right? Mm-hmm. And then after 3 years, they cut some budget, and then they only signed attackers and midfielders anymore, and they didn't sign goalkeepers and defenders anymore because they weren't marketable enough. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a great example of who's getting the headlines and where's the business. But I think it is a responsibility that you have to take yourself nowadays, because I think social media is a blessing and a curse, but you have to go out there and put some action for yourself, because I think everyone loves to see beautiful saves and see all that spectacular action. But if it's not put out there, then nobody's going to see it, right? So I think maybe we need to do a little bit more action in this case to become more marketable, etc. But and luckily I've built a good team around me now that is doing that. But I think definitely we need to grind a little bit harder, because the brands first look at the striker, then look at the midfielder, and probably then come to the defenders and goalkeepers.
Right. And I feel like when it comes to that, it's because you've done something, goalkeepers or defenders, on the world stage, typically, that really can't be ignored by big brands, right? I'm thinking of Iker Casillas and Gianluigi Buffon, who, like, everybody knows who they are, right? And they had glove deals and things like that. And I know you have a deal with gloves, and I want to hear more about that and how that really came to be for you. But when you're playing on the international stage, do you see that difference than playing on, like, the league side?
Yeah, I think like the top goalkeepers, they're always gonna get their deals right, and like with the bigger companies, it's not only a glove deal; it's a full apparel deal with boots, with clothes, with gloves. It's almost like a package deal, and with that come also exclusivity. So you also can't do anything with any other clothing deal or any other shoot deal, because you're committed to one side. And I think if you look at the biggest stars, they will all have the Adidas or the Nike or those deals. And then if you look at one tier below that, then it becomes sort of like a free market, right? So it's been very interesting. I think the goalkeeper glove business has been a little bit like behind in the way how we have been looking at it, and that's why I think I'm very enthusiastic about my new deal, because we did it sort of in like a new way, I believe, which is very futuristic, and I think it's the future. And
can you elaborate on that? Elaborate on your deal a little bit. I
actually have skin in the game, like literally. Mm-hmm. So I'm very happy with how I did it, and I think I want to set like an example for goalkeepers how we can do it.
Yeah, can you elaborate a little bit on that? How the deal came together, how you feel like it's new, unique, and trying to change that market a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So my old glove deal was expiring 1st of June this summer. And me and my agent were looking, and we had several offers. We were talking with it, and then this company came about called Kalma, and they approached me and said, like, "Hey, Maarten, we want to take you in the whole process, and you can build your own glove with us." And then I was like, "Whoa, that's super interesting." And then I said, "But I want to have one." Like remark. I want to invest in the company to have skin in the game and help grow the company. So then we did a deal where it was like, also a little bit of equity extra because I have a big following, for example, and I could build my own signature glove, similar to how basketball players, for example, do it with their Nike shoe deal, etc. Right. So that was super cool. And for me, it was also really cool to see the process, how the gloves are built, what type of material I'm putting into the gloves. Because a majority of the gloves, they are built with very chemical products. And we want to do it as clean as possible with a lot of natural products. And then, what type of latex are you using? What type of fit are you using? What is the thumb? What is the strap? What is the design on the back? I can personalize it in my own way. And that was just super, super cool.
That's awesome. And to get a little bit into the nerdy detail for me, what are those things that you need in your gloves to like you feel like that help you perform the most?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the fit. I like kind of a tighter fit where you feel warm with the glove. And then it comes with like the grip, of course. That's the thing where we always struggle with, especially here in the Texas heat in the summer. It's going to be very slippery. So you have to have a very, very good grip and a grip that can handle wetness of the grass, sweat, and even the cold sometimes. And those are stuff that some people don't think about, but you have to really conscious about, especially if it gets super slippery, right? So those things are super important for me. And then I love to look good with the gloves too, match it with my boots. And it makes you just a little bit more confident, maybe a little bit similar to a haircut or something like that.
Oh yeah, it's all about the fit. It's the first thing you feel real like good when you put it on. I was also always a person I had to wear long sleeves no matter what. I can't do a short sleeve keeper. Can't do it. I want to talk about how your mindset as a goalkeeper has affected the way you do business and how those are one and the same.
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe I invest in really the things that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about goalkeeping. I'm passionate about padel, this racket sport where I'm really, really passionate about, and I've really big hopes for, especially in the US because it's still early stage. I'm passionate about golf. I'm passionate about healthy food and the stuff that we put into our body. So I think I'm always, and that's what I learned from choosing to be a goalkeeper. What are you passionate about? And if you're passionate about that, it's going to feel organic. It's very easy to help and grow the market because you're super passionate about it and you're noticing the problems that you have in those markets, right? So I think, go after your feeling. And if you feel passionate about that subject and it's in your personal values and you think, hey, this could really suit with my personal brand, I think you should just go for it. And that's how I've been doing my portfolio, especially on the business side. Where am I passionate about? What is a hobby of mine where I can roll in this company very easily and make it organic and not like, hey, I'm selling you all this project in a video that is not for me. So I think that's one of the key things for me. Finding stuff that I'm very passionate about and that organically grows with my brand.
Mm-hmm. So do you play padel?
Yes.
Yeah.
In the season, it's very hard to play it because I feel it very quick on my knees. If we have 3 games in a week and then in the off day, I'm going to play padel. So I need to take a little bit care of the body. I also just came back from a big muscle injury on my hamstring. So, but now the off season is approaching. And the only thing I'm going to play is padel in the off-season, so that's great. And I think it's also great just for hand-eye coordination. I think what I told you already, also for kids, to play other sports sometimes can benefit your sport a lot. I know Courtois played volleyball on almost a professional level, and you can see it on the way how he's parrying balls sometimes that he played volleyball. And I'm sure some goalkeepers played handball. Petr played ice hockey, which benefited him. So I think those things can be, really beneficial too.
Lastly, I want to talk to you a little bit about the MLS. You've played here for a while now, and I want to, hear about what it's been like to play here in the U.S. and see now that the World Cup's around the corner. Have you seen it grow? So what has it been like playing in Dallas?
Good question. I came here in 2022 when the end of COVID. In Holland, there was still a lockdown. And I came here and it was opening up, especially in Texas, it was opening up. And then, I first went on a 6-month loan. Do I like the club? Does the club like me? Those were two major questions. And then I had a clause in my agreement where if I played an X amount of games, they would trigger the buy option. And then after 6-7 games, not 6-7, but the club came to me and they said, we're going to trigger the option no matter what. So that gave a lot of confidence to me. And then, in the first 4 years, played over 150, I think around 150 games in the MLS now, or in total for FC Dallas with all the other competitions. Became captain this year, became an MLS All-star, won the save of the season last year. And just established myself here in the league as a good goalkeeper. And then, now learning how the leadership stuff too. And I think also what people don't take into account, that this is one of the hardest leagues in terms of travel. So yesterday I came home at 5 a.m. from Vancouver after our playoff game. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes we play 2 days later again. And I think if you're not a professional here, you're going to struggle a lot. So you need to dedicate everything to put the right things into your body, to recover as fast as possible, and to also get the mind ready again, because there's going to be fatigue, especially in the summer here when Texas heat is around the corner and you go to the altitude in Colorado, you go to the humidness in Houston or in Miami, you go to the cold in March in Toronto, you play in the snow. So there's all these facets in this league where you really have to be adaptable to whatever climate you're going into or whatever fatigue you're feeling. I also play national team in Southeast Asia for Indonesia. My grandmother's from there. So that travel also comes into play with me. So for me, it's a lot about healthy food, sleeping the right ways, and getting a lot of treatments and stuff like that to every time get myself ready for the game. So it's not an easy league to play in. Mm-hmm. And it's transitioning now a lot since I came here from like a retirement league into a development league. Mm-hmm. So there's more and more young players signed here to develop them and to become a star player here instead of buying players who are close to retirement and building them up as market value. So I think it's very interesting. But now with the World Cup coming, you've seen a big skyrocketing in attention. Mm-hmm. With Messi, of course, coming, it was a big deal for the league. Right. So you see all this stuff, and I think soccer becomes more and more one of the main sports here in the US, which is a very good development.
That was my conversation with FC Dallas and Indonesian national team goalkeeper Maarten Paes. And that does it for this edition of The Business of Soccer. It's part of a new series we're starting on the Bloomberg Business of Sports as we get ready for the FIFA World Cup in 2026. I'm Vanessa Perdomo. Subscribe now so you never miss an episode. You're listening to the Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio around the world.